Evening. I'd like to call to order this regular board meeting of the Pullman School District, September 27, 2017. We will begin with the flag salute, led by Director Weed.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Everybody stood up. It's a good sign.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Superintendent Maxwell, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
There are no changes to tonight's agenda. Just a notice that we've been updating each of the items in there as we've gone on this week. So if you looked at your packet earlier last week, some of the information may have been updated, but it's the same topics and information. So
I move approval of the agenda as presented.
I will second.
Thank you both. You're going to be working hard this evening. It's been moved and seconded that we approve tonight's agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the agenda is approved. Next, we'll move on to reports, correspondence, and program, and we'll begin with Director Weed.
Okay, regarding Pullman High School, it is homecoming next week, so lots of things going on, things being really gearing up, and home game next week, and fun times. Otherwise, I will say that I spent last Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in Seattle at the WASDA, which is the Washington State School Directors Association Legislative Assembly. Well, that was Friday and Saturday. Resolutions Committee on Thursday. But it was interesting. They had over 160 different school members there. They had a lot of panelists talking about effective advocacy at the state and local levels and what to do, one of which is invite everybody and their uncle to come to school events, let them know everything that's going on in your schools, and then invite them again to school events so that they feel like they're a part of your school, not just during session, but all year round. So that was pretty, they really emphasize that. Also, some concerns, of course, about school construction and funding policies, because, of course, there is no funding for school construction as of now in the budget. And then there's state and national K through 12 policies and the impacts of HB 2242, which was the education funding bill. And so we talked a lot about things like that. One thing I thought was fascinating was Chris Reichdahl, our superintendent of public instructions, was bringing up the possibility of year-round school for K through 8th grade. So that's a little something that may be on the talking tables now. So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting, intriguing. But we're not an agrarian society anymore. There's very few farms that really take advantage of our youth, and if they do, they're high school kids because the younger ones can't work anymore. So it kind of makes some sense, kind of.
I saw a photo on social media of the Ledge Assembly, and the people were holding paddles. What is that about?
Those are the cards. Well, they have a whole bunch of proposals, standing proposals on things that they want the legislature to look at. And every year you have to go through these to revise them and approve, see if the grammar's still relevant or it still pertains to our laws. And so then on each one you have to vote. And if you're for it, you hold up a green card. And if you're against it, you hold up a red card. And then if you want to go and talk about it, you either hold up a yellow card for questions about further information about what they're talking about, and then, or you can go up there and talk about the red, holding your red card, talk against it, hold your green card, talk for it, and it's you're timed at how much. Like all the pros can only have 5 minutes, all the against can have a total of 5 minutes. So it really kind of helps keep things moving.
So it's really efficiently structured.
Oh yeah, it is. You just sit there and wave your little card every few seconds, and it's minutes, I guess. Yeah, so that's how it works. We'll do another informational, or another voting thing. There's at the delegate assembly I think at the annual conference.
Oh,
And there's another voting on different things going on. And then I think those are the 2 times that we flap our little cards around. So there you, and I don't have to be doing this. You all are more than welcome to go and be the voting delegate. It's just sort of by default, because I'm usually there for other committee meetings, that I get to be the lucky one to flap around the red and green cards. But
I think that's because you're so efficient.
oh, no, you're more than welcome to find out what it's all about, too. I don't want to hog all this exciting experience. Okay. So that's about it on the, just planning ahead for this next session, but please, let's work on talking to our legislators now, rather than during session. During session, they have like 5 minutes for you. Now there's a little more time. All right, that's it. I'll be quiet now. I'm done.
Thank you.
Sure.
Director Evan.
Just to report that Dr. Maxwell and I met with the Franklin Elementary School PTA last week as part of our outreach to the different schools, and that was very well attended, and they have a full agenda for the school year, so we plan to attend those meetings on a regular basis, just so we can keep our lines of communication. I remarked to the PTA that in years past we've been primarily focusing on teachers and students, and so now our focus is on making our listening also to the parents. So I think the PTA is a natural work of that. So, and since Director Johansson is not here, I would just like to comment that the fall sports are well underway now. And doesn't that even sound like Carl?
It really does. Oh, yeah. No, you gotta talk about
Fall
soccer.
sports are well underway.
What about the field conditions?
We're doing a magnificent job. The field conditions are good and the weather's good. And
Soccer's
Moscow and
good.
Pullman plays
officiating?
Moscow.
Are we well staffed with officiation?
We are.
Okay, good.
He's one of the chain gang, you
I
know,
know
for
he
the
is.
Yeah, so anyway, that's,
gangs.
so I don't have anything to report for
For Dean?
Director Kinzer.
Yeah.
Okay,
The fields are doing well.
good.
Good. Oh, phew, what a relief.
Yeah. Yeah, I should say that Director Johansson is out of town and Director Kinzer is farming tonight, literally farming as we
His
speak.
garbanzos, I believe,
Yes.
is finally
Yes.
time to harvest them.
Harvest garbanzos tonight.
Yeah. Okay, well, my only report, I will say that at a phone conference on this upcoming Monday, since I'm on the nominating committee, we'll find out if we need to have a runoff for the WASDA
Oh, yeah, votes in
candidates.
by Friday, right?
Yeah, and so it will be tabulated and we'll be discussing whether there is a runoff or not. And so we'll know then, but I kind of hope there's not, but we'll see. All right, next we have, so we don't have a ASB report, or do we?
Not tonight.
Okay.
So just homecoming week is coming up, and Patrick will give us a summary of homecoming week at our next board meeting.
Okay, perfect. Well, then let's move on to your superintendent's report.
And I'll start with construction update, Kamiak Elementary. Moving a lot of dirt out on the site. They are forming the base for the school, and so we're hoping that we'll start pouring the foundation tomorrow, hopefully. So really excited to finally get some concrete going. So we're making a lot of progress now. There are a ton of equipment out there. Materials are starting to arrive. So we're really happy, and so we're excited to get that going. So it's going well. Anything to add to that, Joe?
That's it. That's all I have to add.
Okay.
And they should be able to pour all of what they have formed tomorrow at Camden.
So that will be the foundation. Along with that, I think I'll go right into my State of the District presentation because that contains a whole host of information. So without any further ado here, I will. And I apologize, this is in a PDF, but this is also a PowerPoint. So this is one that I will use out in the community with various service organizations. I try to tailor it each time a little bit. But of course, the mission and vision is what we each summer at our board advance take a look at to see if we need to change or continue with our mission and vision. And so I won't read that to you, but again, our focus is each student to achieve their full potential. And again, with our vision that every district employee and community member has the essential role in supporting the overall development of each student. That's one of the messages that we've been taking around to the boosters, the PTAs, and the PTOs. Communication, these are our primary communication methods that we use, is the website, obviously. Peach Jar, which is a newsletter delivery system. I put out my newsletter each month to staff and parents. And on social media, we use Facebook and Twitter. So those are the primary communication tools, and I won't go into much detail because Shannon will be doing a communications presentation and covering some of this, so I don't want to steal all her thunder. So, enrollment trend, we continue to show robust growth in the district. As you can see, our FTE as of September is 2,830 students, or full-time equivalents, so that's not exactly head count, so but pretty close. So you can see that we're continuing to grow, and that's why we continue to build. And with that, you can see this is our organization chart with communications, myself, the assistant superintendent, and then our supporting staff directors. So we run a pretty lean and efficient administrative team. We also continue to enhance and strengthen our partnerships. This is just a short list. It's not an inclusive list. The Pullman Education Foundation, WSU, various civic groups, Police Discovery Science Center, Boost, Community Child Care Center, CEL, City of Pullman, numerous partnerships and support, and we very much thank them for their support. Professional development continues, and that's our goal of fueling success and performance at work. We utilize a lot of our in-district talent as well as sometimes bringing in outside professional development staff as well. This year our focus is on math, and we are utilizing both in-house staff to help with that as well as some outside professional development consultants. Some highlights of our instructional program updates. Of course, we're in our second year of full-day kindergarten, which we implemented a year earlier than required, and that is going extremely well. Wi-Fi has been added to our buses. We have a STEM specialist at the elementary level. This year we've added a math TOSA, which is Johnny Stevens, and she is out and about every day in various buildings working with our new staff and experienced staff in addressing the needs in the areas of mathematics. We've added, of course, as you know, additional AP courses at the high school, and we've added the French course at LMS. So we offer one period of Spanish at the middle school as well as one period of French. We've been spending a lot of time on facilities, and we'll continue to do so into the future. Just as a summary, we added 6 elementary classrooms to Franklin in 2014. 2 years later, we added 4 elementary classrooms to Jefferson, and I'll report that all of those are actual classrooms. We are full. Kamiak Elementary construction, this is a little picture on the bottom of the earthwork that's occurring at that site right now. Pullman High School was just recently completed. LMS approaching capacity, but we still have plenty of room. That's not an emergency situation yet, but it's something to put on our radar in the future. Transportation, we recently will purchase property when we get the signing documents, so they're still under review. And Pioneer Center, that'll be a future project that we'll address in our facilities plan, and I've asked Joe to relook at that facility plan that we created, I think about 2 or 3 years ago. So we're going to pull that back up, dust it off, and see where we need to go. Partnerships with the community, I just want to illustrate that we use our facilities year-round. Sometimes it seems like around the clock, but everything from community groups to Arabic language schools, parks and recs, all utilize our buildings. And one of the things we're always balancing is school and community use and making sure we have time also to get into those spaces to make sure we can keep them functional and nice condition and make sure we're doing our maintenance. So sometimes we have to ask groups either not to use a space for a short period of time or substitute it with another space. But that's part of keeping our facilities up. This one is just a did you know what some of those are used for, and you can see there's just a host of different things that our classrooms are used for, our gyms are used for, and our fields are used. So variety of clubs, organizations. So literally on any day of the week, our facilities are being used. And I'll add that the theater is becoming more and more in demand, I'll say. So we have people that are scrambling to try to reserve the theater for various events. Safety and security, again, we have emergency protocols in all schools. They've been updated, standardized, and we continue to review those as new information becomes available. We do have security cameras at Pullman High School and Lincoln Middle School. We have enhanced safety and security measures at all of our elementary schools. General fund budget, this is Diane's favorite part of the presentation. So, and these are actually her slides that I borrowed. So right now we have 2,830 students, 169 certificated staff, 13 administrators, and 138 classified staff members. Where does our money come from? As you can see, a large chunk of it, and the most, comes from state general purpose funds. And you can see how it breaks out. Local taxes are only about 18%. Where do we spend ours? Well, you can see that certificated salaries, classified salary, and benefits make up approximately 82 to 83% of our entire budget, which leaves supplies and then purchase services, and then a little bit for travel for various things. Some challenges and opportunities. As enrollment increases, again, we're always trying to stay ahead of that to make sure we have enough space and facilities to operate our programs. Definitely transportation, but with the purchase of a site. I have reached out to the Whitman County superintendents. A couple of school districts have expressed a verbal interest in maybe doing a transportation co-op with us in the future. And so I'll be pursuing that option. As far as that, there is a program right now currently with OSPI where if you were to do a transportation co-op, the state would fund 90% of the construction cost.
Provided, of course, there's funding.
Yeah, I wasn't going to add that. I'm being an optimistic person right now. So, lower class size requirements, they're still on the books in the horizon, so we want to be prepared for that. We're now, the state of Washington's plan to the federal government on Every Student Succeeds Act. We'll see if that gets kicked back or approved or adjusted. And of course, we're always focusing on education with our legislators and continue to advocate for our community and our students and staff. This last legislative session was quite an event. So we have a new salary compensation system that will be taking place. Program for basic education is starting to be defined. Local levy will become an enhancement levy. Material supplies and operating costs have kind of been set. Health benefits in the future, starting next year, will move all school employees to the same health benefit system. There's more auditing, accounting, and transparency. Cleary is still in there, based at looking at right now, just taking a look at what they've done. Many school districts are finding themselves in they're going to have trouble to even operate in the future. So this will not go away. This will be something that the legislators are going to have to deal with in the short session. Again, our maintenance and operations levy are going to be renamed enrichment levies. Again, we can only collect $1.50 per thousand of assessed value or $2,500 per pupil limit. For us, in our situation, it'll be $1.50. With that, you can see right now we're collecting $2.55, which generates a collection of $5,300,000. At $1.50, we'll collect $3,122,000. So you can start to see I'm a little concerned with that number. However, we also now will qualify for local effort assistance, so we get another $1 million. But $1 million and $2 million and $3 million, so we're about at the break-even point. So, which with a new salary, I'm not sure how we're going to do that, but we'll figure it out. So the new enrichment, there are limitations. You have to get these approved by OSPI, and you can only use levy now for extracurricular activities, extended school days or year, additional course offering, early learning, administration of enrichment activities, or providing extra staff for class size reduction and additional staff beyond the staffing ratios. So stay tuned for more. Right now, what the legislator basically said is, OSPI, you know more about this, so you define it. OSPI is saying, it's not our job to define it, it's yours. So right now, they're kicking this back and forth to one another. So we're not quite sure what's going to happen yet. But what we do know is that student achievement is still going to be a great thing in the Pullman School District. And so all of our schools consistently outperform the state average. We have a high graduation rate. Students are engaged in authentic projects. And I'll show you some of the scores to do that. But before that, I'll talk a little bit about change in the assessment laws, since that's always a strong topic of conversation. So locally administered assessments tied to a course could be an alternative assessment. What they've done is they basically eliminated the collection of evidence. Now they're saying there could be a locally administered assessment tied to a course. The Smarter Balance moves back to 10th grade where it used to be. The high school and beyond plan has some minimum elements required, and so I'll be bringing that back probably at a work session to give you a more detailed explanation of that. And the science assessment is gone, but it comes back in 2021. So in between then, we don't have science as a requirement for graduation. It will be a test, an assessment, but it comes back in 2021, at least right now. So stay tuned for changes. Again, I talked about the Pullman School District and the state assessment in the Washington State, and as you can see, our students do very well compared to the state in ELA, which is English Language Arts. And with math, as you can see, again, Pullman scores versus the state of Washington. If you look at our math, is more than double. With that, absence rate is going to be one of those indicators that we're going to have to be held accountable for, but I feel pretty good that we're at a 0.1 compared to Washington State of 0.7. You can see our adjusted graduation rate compared to the state. We just received our SAT scores. So this is English, reading, and writing, and math. Here's the national average. Here's Washington State average. And here's the Pullman Public Schools average. Again, our students do an excellent job. Also, the AP exam information just came in. We had 199 students take the AP exam, an exam. There were a total of 320 exams taken, and we had 233 exams with a score of 3, 4, or 5, which are required for college, to be accepted for college credit, depending on the. So very, very high rate. So with that, we have upcoming events, Coffee with Bob, that's my schedule. So next one's coming in October 5th. And we're also inviting our public and community to come out for the Kamiak ground breaking, which will be at 5:30, or is it 6:30? Yeah, it's 5:30. So it's 5:30. We realized when we put this together at 6:30, it'd probably be dark out there, so it wouldn't be much to see. So it's been moved up to 5:30. So this is just a little video. What do you hear from our teachers? And so that was an opening activity, and that's on our website. So it's a great little 3-minute video, so check it out. So never perfect, but still extraordinary. And that is my report for the state of the district.
All right. Any questions for Superintendent Maxwell?
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
And you did say that was going to be online, too, Bob, the state of the district?
It will be. Yeah, we can put that online. Next up.
Next, we have our communications coordinator, Shannon Focht, presenting the annual communications report.
You want this, Shannon? Or I can do it for you, whatever you prefer.
I'll control the mouse.
Okay. Yeah, we do need to.
Okay, the board requested a quick update on communications,
'Cause that's-
and I just wanted to start by thanking you all for your support of communications. I know that you've spent a lot of time and effort focusing on that over the past year, and I really appreciate it. To start out, our values as we communicate with our constituents, so parents and staff and students, we're always going to put students first, and hopefully that goes without saying. We also try to act with respect and integrity in all of our communications and in our work as a district. And then the third one up there is transparency. And that's something that's not only a legal obligation, but also the ethical thing to do. And so we try really hard to get as much information out as quickly as possible. A few things that are new this year. The board has been really committed to being more and more involved in our schools. You've all been very committed in the past, but you've put in a lot of extra time this year. Something that we've implemented in the past is having liaisons for each school. And this year, we've kind of renamed it Communication Liaisons. And each board member has a school that they're responsible for. They started out the year by attending the first staff meeting and first booster or PTO or PTA meeting with Dr. Maxwell. And it was a great opportunity for the board members to introduce themselves, share a little bit about their plans for the year as the communication liaison. And then in January, each board member, will attend a listening tour at the school that they're assigned to, and we did that this past spring. It was very successful, and so board members will go back again in the spring. We actually have that scheduled in January, so I guess that would be winter. And they'll spend a half day listening to staff at that school. Staff is welcome to drop in and just share any feedback or concerns. That was very well received, so we're going to continue that again this year. And then throughout the year, board members are encouraged to attend as many events at that school as they can. Another thing we're focusing on is superintendent communications. And so Bob has also put in a lot of time and effort into being visible, listening to constituents. So something that he did, again, with the board members is he attended that first staff meeting and first PTA or PTO or booster meeting of the year. Other things that we've implemented this year is Bob has open office hours. So once a month he comes in early, which is a better fit for most teachers' schedules since they have to be to work at 8 o'clock probably. So from 7 to 8 a.m. they can come in and have a cup of coffee and just talk to Bob about whatever's on their mind. And then similar to that, we have a once a month event called Coffee with Bob, and parents or community members can come in and chat with Bob. He's been giving updates on things impacting our families, and then also just being available for discussion. And that's been a really good experience so far this year. And then kind of our third goal this year is continuing to promote open communication. And so I brought you all party favors tonight. These were the postcards that went out to, I'll let you pass those down. The postcards are something we implemented this year. Those went out to all families, I think the first week of school, and they just include a little welcome from the school district and then contact information for Bob and for the principal of that school, and then also the communication liaison for that school. Some communications that we're continuing this year that aren't necessarily new, but we're focusing on still. We send out weekly emails. We have the superintendent's newsletter. We're very active on our website and on social media. Dr. Maxwell gives presentations to a lot of groups in the community to give updates about what's happening in our school district. And then we'll continue to have departments present updates on their specific department or program throughout the year. And I wanted to highlight that we will have our second annual education showcase. It's going to be a little earlier this year. It's October 12th, so coming up in a couple of weeks. And Susan, you mentioned getting our legislators more involved. At this point, we have all 3 of our local legislators confirmed to attend that event. We are continuing to use social media. It seems to be the most effective way of reaching our families. And so I brought you a few statistics. This time last year, we had 601 followers on Twitter. We currently have 720, and that's as of last week, so we might have a few more. I continue to kind of get them trickling in. So this number is probably another important statistic, the number of impressions. So that's the number of times things that we've tweeted out have been seen by people. And so that's a pretty huge number. We're having a really big impact on social media. And so things like videos and pictures of things happening in the classrooms, those are the most liked or most effective things that we tweet out. And then the middle school and the high school both have Twitter accounts as well. And so you can see their accounts have grown quite a bit over the past year. And then we have a Pullman Public Schools Facebook page and a Facebook page for each of our schools. And then over time, you can see we have grown our number of followers as well. In October of 2016, we had 344 followers on Facebook. As of last week, we had just under 1,200. So it's been very popular. We advertise our Facebook page on a lot of our communications as well, and I think that's why a lot of our families have discovered it. And then we also push out a lot of content that way, so we're continuing to keep people pulled in.
On the Pullman High School, it's a little feeble there.
It is,
But
and
I know that the sports all have kind of their own Facebook pages and stuff too. So is there an administrator that does this, that they can combine all of them, or?
And that is one of the things that I want to focus on this year, is figuring out, is there a way we can streamline some of our pages and communications, because it's a lot of work to manage. We have at this point 7 Facebook pages, because we do have one for Kamiak right now as well. It's just getting off the ground. And clearly the high school one, we don't push out a lot on individual pages. A lot of it comes from the district page, and then it will be pushed out on the school pages from the district.
Or
so
reposted.
it's
Okay.
one time creating content and then 6 times sharing it out. The high school has Hound Central and a really active boosters page on
yeah.
Facebook. And so that's why I think people just don't even look for the high school on Facebook. I think that they know at this point that Hound Central and the boosters page are going to be a better resource for the things they're looking for, like athletics and events. And then also the high school website gets a lot of traffic as
But you're
well.
not the one that does, are you in charge of all of those?
Yeah.
So I know Cameron is a monster tweeter.
Yes, he manages his own Twitter account, and then Eric Hines manages the high school Twitter. So
Okay.
the only one at a district level that I manage is the Pullman Public Schools Twitter account.
Great. Thanks, Shannon.
You're welcome. And then I wanted to share with you just some screen grabs of the Kamiak accounts. They're now on Instagram and Twitter, and then they do have a Facebook page. And none of these have been advertised yet. We're just getting them off the ground. I mean, as Bob said, we don't even have concrete poured yet, so we have some time to start communicating and advertising. But we thought this would be a really great way for the community to watch progress on schools. A lot of people are on Instagram, and so they can just get little snapshots of progress over
I
time.
love the Kestrel as the profile there.
Yeah. Evan Hecker created the Instagram account, and he's been kind of managing that. There's only a few posts so far. We're just getting things going. And then a couple of other statistics. These are related to our website. And so I just pulled up some of the most popular pages that people look at. You can see the high school gets far more than even the main district page. And then the elementary schools, they don't have as much content on them, and they don't have as many athletics and events that the middle school and high school do. So this was just for a month. And then another number that I thought you might find interesting is I ran a report, and we have 97% of our families with email addresses on file. And so since one of the ways we communicate with our families is by email, I was really excited to see that we have such a strong showing for email accounts. And then also, I did run a report of all of our families that we do not have email accounts on file for, and our schools will be working on getting those. I'd like to be higher than 97%. And a few challenges that I'm going to be working on addressing this year. Social media, it's just ever present. It's hard to make sure we're getting the message out and that rumors aren't being spread. So we want to make sure we're getting as much factual information out as quickly as possible. And then also consolidating accounts so that we're not repeating efforts more than necessary. We have noticed we did a communications focused thought exchange process last fall, and a lot of our families prefer email and social media, but it's across the board. There was really no preference in one specific area for us to focus on, so we just have to continue communicating multiple methods all the time. And then another thing that Dr. Maxwell and I will be working on this year is communicating the huge number of changes that we'll be seeing over the next couple of years due to legislative changes. So, do you have any other questions?
Oh, well done. Thank you,
Okay,
Shannon.
you're welcome.
Thank you,
Very nice.
A lot of
Thank you.
work.
Thanks, Shannon.
All right.
Thanks, Shannon.
Next, we have Diane Hodge, our fiscal manager, presenting a report on uncollected non-tax
Probably
revenue.
the most exciting thing you'll hear tonight, guys.
Oh, I want to
I
see
don't
you.
have a PowerPoint.
I just want to see you make this exciting right here.
No, seriously. So every year, according to policy 6119, we need to bring before the board any uncollected non-tax revenue that's been outstanding for 7 years. So effective December 31st, we have about $279 that we need to declare as unclaimed, uncollected non-tax revenue. And we just have to bring that before the board so you're aware that we're going to write $279 off this year.
Okay. How does that compare with other years?
It's about the same. Sometimes we can get up to 400, but usually it's not much. It's been a collection for 7 years, and they write it off, and they won't collect after 7 years. So
Okay.
then we write it off.
Okay.
Yep.
That's good.
Thanks, Diane. All right. And next we have our Director of Operations, Joe Thornton, presenting the risk management report.
And even more exciting than uncollected funds is insurance. Which comes in the category of the cost of doing business. Nobody likes to pay insurance, but we're glad we had insurance. This was a year in particular. Actually, we were lucky as at Eastern Washington schools. The winter was really hard on schools. in our insurance pool. We had two major claims. We had a claim for the damage to the conference center, AKA the double wide that was at Pioneer Center. And then we had a claim for the Franklin floor. The Franklin floor alone was a $100,000 claim. But again, like I said, we kind of made out light compared to a lot of districts in Eastern Washington. So as you can see, the cost of insurance took quite a jump this year. The jump is about $34,000, 15%. Part of that can be attributed to adding 54,000 square feet of classrooms between Jefferson and the high school. We add more square footage, we're going to have more insurance. But that was about $10,000. $20,000 was for the cost of general liability, and I think that's probably just a reflection of the pool that we're part of. Unfortunately, you hear more and more and more about lawsuits filed against school districts, and that's just the reality of the situation right now. And again, this is called risk management, not risk elimination. If this was truly risk elimination, there's lots of things we do that we wouldn't do. We probably wouldn't take trips on a bus other than required transportation. We probably wouldn't play football. We probably wouldn't pole vault. We probably wouldn't have playgrounds. So this is about risk management. So we do those things that are going to make sure we're doing things as correctly as possible. For example, we just ended a 2-day training today offered by Clear Risk on right response, how to help to de-escalate a child, and only ever put your hands on a child when their safety or the safety of another student or adult is at risk. So those types of things. So there's a list of things that we do throughout the year to try to keep us in good graces with our insurance carrier. Any questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for the complete list as well.
Yeah. All right. And next, we have our collaboration report. And I noticed that our assistant superintendent is back. However, on the agenda,
What timing?
on the agenda, it does say that Superintendent Maxwell will be reporting on this topic. So I'll let you two decide.
We could fight over it. So no.
Yeah.
I'll be happy. You can jump in. How's that? You probably had jet lag.
I just got up.
All right. Well, we had a very successful collaboration day on September 20th, and I just want to say that I really appreciate our staff. They were engaged in deep conversation on teaching and learning, looking at the data. I visited almost every group. Every group was here in the high school, spread throughout the high school, but we're really happy on the conversations that were occurring. At the elementary level, they split it up into 2 time periods. The first hour and 15 minutes approximately was spent on looking at the core math standards at various grade levels and looking at student data and how that was aligning to the standards. So basically, if we were looking at one standard and we were doing really well, we made note of that. If we were looking at a standard where maybe our data showed that we weren't performing as much as we would have liked to, we had deeper conversations the second hour about that. Sunnyside Elementary did not participate in that first hour. They had some special training on the CLEAR project, which is the collaborative learning for educational achievement and resilience. So to create and sustain trauma-informed models of practice support our students. So they are in that CLEAR project this year. So during collaboration days, they'll spend 1 hour with a consultant specifically on that topic. After that, they did rejoin the other elementary schools to continue that math discussion on the core standards, and very impressed with the discussions our staff are having. At the secondary level, they did a lot of collaboration with departments. For example, Lincoln Middle School and Pullman High School math departments and content teams. They reviewed data. They looked at teaching strategies, practice strategies based on data review. As example, I just put in pre-calculus review the advanced placement scores and statistics exam the SBAC strand data to take a look at how is that aligning, and especially knowing that we do statistics and then Algebra 2, and now they're going to take the state assessment, which is really focused on Algebra 2. How is that going to align? How can we prepare our kids to make sure they have the information? English department, again, was unpacking those standards as well, reviewing assessment tools, rubrics that they would use. Science teachers, again, a lot of conversation on looking at data from the EOC, the SBAC, attendance, discussing a lot about the next generation science standard adoption and the upcoming new science assessment. Social studies, again, unpack standards. A lot of the focus at our departments was looking at those standards deeply to make sure our practices being reflected in those standards. And so, very successful day. Our specialty groups like world language, health and fitness, art, again, they did a lot of scope and sequence. They looked at data as well. And our special education staff worked with our grade level math departments for the first part of that session to look at ways we can help support our students in those core classes as well. So I think it was a very good day. We did meet as an administrative group to reflect back on the summaries from the staff and to look at ways we can improve our next collaboration with some additional structure and facilitation. So we're really excited about that work. Anything to add, Roberta?
I think you provided a ample summary.
All right.
Did the Sunnyside staff actually physically have to travel up here after their, okay.
They did it. They did it here.
They came here.
Yeah.
Oh, to do their
Yeah.
clear, they just did their own thing?
They did their own thing for
Okay.
that first hour. So,
Okay.
and that's a project that at the end of this year we're going to really evaluate and see if that's something that we want to grow and continue. Many districts are looking at either this particular project or something very, very similar.
How many sessions will they do on the clear?
Do you have a number on that?
I think they've already had 2 because they had one before
Before
school
school
started.
started.
That was 3 hours. And then I think that they'll do 6 more.
Okay,
And, yeah,
It's ongoing.
yeah.
okay.
And then the consultant's in the building twice a month in addition to that, all
Okay.
day. And staff have access to her. It's very robust, and you can already see the implementation of some of the strategies in place.
Well, since I'm the communication liaison, maybe at a collaboration day I could come and just get a peek at what they're learning about.
Yeah.
That'd be very interesting.
Yeah, and even stopping by the school, you could see some of those techniques that they've been learning in practice. And I think you would be able to spot those, or that we can definitely help
Yeah,
show you what some of those
sounds
are.
really interesting. Okay, excellent. Any other questions? Okay. The next part of our agenda is the visitors section. This part of the agenda is for anyone wishing to speak before the board, either as an individual or a member of the group. Visitors addressing the board will go to the microphone and state their name and address prior to presenting their information. The board will listen and may offer clarification, but will not discuss the topic at this time. The board may consider moving the topic presented to a future meeting date as a discussion item. Please keep your comments civil and respectful and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Did we have anyone signed in? Would anyone care to address the board at this time? Okay. Seeing no visitors, we'll move on to the consent agenda. To expedite business at a board meeting, the board approves the use of a consent agenda which includes items considered to be routine in nature. Any item which appears on the consent agenda may be removed from the consent agenda by a member of the board and voted on separately. The remaining items will be voted on by a single motion. Tonight's consent agenda consists of minutes, warrants, personnel report, ASB fundraisers, records destruction, transfer requests, and an overnight field trip request. And I would now entertain a motion regarding the consent agenda.
Are there any changes to the consent agenda?
No changes to the
Okay.
consent
In
agenda.
that case, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented this evening.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the consent agenda is approved. Next, we move on to action items. We do have one action item tonight. It is Policy 3122, excused and unexcused absences. And this will be presented by Superintendent Maxwell.
Thank you. So this was, we've had various discussions on this particular topic with the new change just recently, so I feel
Yeah.
like I brought this back like 4 times.
It's getting a very thorough review.
It's getting a very thorough review, and I really appreciate it. So with this, the main changes has been the definition of an excused absence and the definition of an absence. And with the definition, it's now basically greater than 50% of the student's schedule, not necessarily the day, because some of our students don't go to school for an entire day. So very minor change. With the change in excused absence, one of the things that we have been talking about, and I think so one of the, I'm just trying to see if it's on the policy, I think it's in the procedures. One of the things that we did clean up in the procedure was language to address if an activity or an absence was part or related to a student's high school and beyond plan, that they could talk with the principal to get permission for that to be an excused if it was part and directly related, a factor with their high school and beyond plan, or additional activity that would enhance their particular learning, such as a music competition. So that language has been added to the procedure. Any questions?
No, I think we've discussed this. I'm sure it will be changed
But
again next year with
The
the new
version
truancy
here
laws.
still does have 2 first sentences.
It does?
So-
I thought we caught that.
Yeah. I mean, I just pulled it up, so.
Let me take a look at that again.
I think if we just took out second.
Under excused, regular,
No, just the very
or up
top.
at the top, forward. Okay.
Huh, well, I just uploaded this and they're both showing, but your version up there is probably okay. So. Okay,
We'll make sure it's the right one, so.
yeah.
I
Well, in
think-
that case, I will move that we approve
Okay.
the correct policy, 3122, excused and unexcused absences.
Second?
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve changes to policy 3122, excused and unexcused absences. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, policy 3122 is, changes to policy 3122 are approved. Next, we move on to discussion items. Our first discussion item tonight is parent-student handbooks, presented by Superintendent Maxwell.
So we've been spending a lot of work with the parent-student handbooks, and at the elementary level, what we have been working on is a single handbook for all 3, soon to be 4 schools. We noticed when we first brought this to you earlier in the year, we had outdated information. There weren't necessarily consistency in some of the information being provided, so I want to thank, in particular, Allison as well as being a reader, as well as Evan Hecker and Shannon, myself and Roberta, and probably some others that have spent amazing amount of time looking at our elementary handbook to make sure that we have a really nice, clear product that is informational for families. So the idea would be that this would be posted online. We took the common questions that we received from parents and community, as well as added our annual notifications. And I think this will serve us well. You'll notice that LMS and PHS still have a separate parent-student handbook, but it is our intention to streamline those as well to be similar, as well as what we did, similar to what we did with the athletic handbook. LMS and PHS have the same athletic handbook, and that was done, I believe, last year or the year before. So again, I think this will be easily updated. We can update it from the district, put it online. If parents do request a hard copy, the school will print that off for them, and they'll have some hard copies available if parents would like a hard copy. It just saves on paper. Most of our folks go to our website anyway for the information, but you can see maps, calendar, policies. Not all the policies and procedures are here, obviously, but what we have deemed either the most important or the ones that we get calls on are presented in this handbook. So I really appreciate the effort that's been put into this, and I think we have a much, much better product that we'll be able to quickly revise each year and have ready for our community.
Was there a lot of disparity between the 3 elementary ones?
I wouldn't say not a lot, but there was some disparity. A lot of it was first person, second person, third person. Some of it had maybe a little extra flair to it depending on the particular site, which some of the school sites are different. Playgrounds are slightly
sure.
different, that type of thing. But what we're trying to do is standardize that language. And of course, there are probably some other particular things to particular buildings that they would still be able to send out with their newsletter. But this would be the primary student parent handbook with, as you can see, the table of contents. So we kind of looked through each of them, picked what we thought was the best, and merged them all. So, but I think this will be very helpful for our
I
staff
think
and
it's
for our
just
families.
great to have it all kind of standardized.
Yep. So this is the handbook for each one of the elementary schools.
Perfect. Well done.
Wish
Thank
we had
you.
thought of this years ago. So, but it's a really nice product, and it's amazing how much you miss when you've read it over 3 times and you go back and you still catch some things. So
Wow.
I really appreciate everybody's work on. It's been a team effort and
Big project.
a big project. And like I said, we'll be working with. I already notified the secondary principals that we're going to go through their handbooks next. So that's next up on the project list.
All right. So are we, in terms of the LMS and PHS handbooks that are in here, are we just reviewing changes for this year, or?
We're going to be taking a look at changes for this year and starting to take a look at how we're going to update these as well. So this is what we have right now as far as handbook for each school for this
Okay.
year. But we will start working on them probably in another 4 weeks.
And this is completely separate from like the student athlete handbook,
It's
right?
completely separate, yes. Mhm. And the student athlete handbook was updated last year, so.
So are we expecting at the next board meeting, we would approve the elementary handbook?
Correct.
But not
You could approve this one for this year, but we're going to be working, this is going to be a work in progress. So for example, I'll give you an example, our new dress code has not necessarily been incorporated into this, I think, clearly enough. So that would be one area that, as we update some policies, we're going to have to go into the handbooks and make some changes, but for the most part, I think these handbooks are ready to go, but again, realizing that we are going to have to start making some changes as we go throughout the year.
So are there any differences between the 16-17 and 17-18 LMS handbook?
Mainly, they've just updated a few things.
Okay.
As you can see, contact information, Tammy Sewell. They've relooked at some of these particulars. I didn't get a separate notice on here as what they particularly changed. It wasn't highlighted.
Yeah, I appreciated in the PHS one that it was
Highlighted,
highlighted.
yeah. So
It was very helpful.
No
So-
kidding.
it's helpful when it's highlighted. Then you can go there and say,
Yeah.
okay, what did you change?
Yes.
So I don't think the ALMS did many changes. Much of the information when I reviewed it looked exactly the same as last year.
So we really don't have to work too hard on worrying about approving that next time, right?
No, I
Figure
wouldn't
out how many
because,
major changes are going on. The big one is, of
because
course,
as
the
you
elementary.
know, for example, I need to go back and look in here and see about attendance. That's an area. We know student dress is another area, and we know sometime this year our discipline policies will change, which is going to change the student handbooks. So there'll be at least 3 areas that we're going to key in on secondary handbooks.
But the nice thing is if it's kept online,
Right, then we
You
can
can
just
just
go in
update
and
it.
we can make it,
yeah,
and I think this will save, the school front office some work as well. Rather, they just send us the updates and we can control from there.
Bob, do abridged excerpts from excused and unexcused absences go in these handbooks as well as truancy?
What we're going to do is try to standardize that language and then refer, a lot of times you'll see, for more information, refer to a specific policy or procedure. Otherwise, it starts getting a little too long.
Sure.
So we want to make sure we put enough information to give them a general idea, and then for specific instances, refer to the policy and procedure.
Good.
all right, anything else? Okay. Moving on then to our second discussion item is Resolution 171803, WASDA Conference Board Attendance.
Thank you. Oops. So we're bringing this to you with the election coming up. We do have a couple of our board members that have running elections with other folks interested in the office. What we wanted to do is be prepared that if someone is elected other than that the new elected board member who wouldn't take office till later would have the opportunity to go to the new school board member boot camp at the WASDA conference. So what this resolution, you have to have a resolution, number one, to allow that to happen. So it's required to allow any newly elected board member to attend the conference on behalf of the district, and for the district to cover the conference expenses for the newly elected board member not yet holding office. So that's exactly what this resolution is.
So it's not just the boot camp, then it's the entire conference?
It's the entire conference,
Okay,
but that would be one that I would strongly encourage
Absolutely.
any newly elected board member to attend.
Yeah, it only took me a year or more to figure out what the heck was going on. It's not easy.
So this is just a proactive resolution.
Sure.
We may not need it, or we may need it. So, but it's better to have it because, as you know, it's up for discussion. We could still vote it into action at our next board. But if we wait it too long,
Yeah,
then we get a time crunch. So,
perfect. Way to think ahead, Bob. Way to go.
happens once in a while. So,
Oh, no, it's the new member board boot camp is pretty valuable.
pretty valuable and essential. So again, the resolution is right here. So again, it just allows you to, allows the district to pay for their travel expenses and registration.
Okay. That is excellent. Okay. This concludes our discussion items. We do have a couple of the standing informational items, including the procedure that goes with the policy we just approved. We do have an executive session this evening for the purpose of discussing negotiations. So if there are no objections, we will at this time move into an we'll move into the executive session after the room clears. And how long will that session take?
10 minutes.
Okay, for 10 minutes, and no action will be taken, and then we will adjourn after that.
thank you all for attending.
Thank you.